My name is. Oh, oh.
Me and a false start here. I apologize. Qualified. Go home. Don't send them. Might do it. Okay, I think we're ready. Thank you, Tim.
All right. Okay. Hello, for real this time. Uh, my name is Sam Conti. My project was entitled "I Hit Stuff with Sticks: The World of Marching Percussion." So in sixth grade, I started something new just to try it out. It was band. I started as a percussionist in the beginning band at the middle school, and I loved it. And then when I got to the high school in eighth grade, I had another opportunity to try something new with music, which was marching band, which I tried it out just because it seemed cool, it seemed like something fun, and as it turned out, again, I loved it. I loved it even more than just being in the regular band. Uh, I've stuck with it for all these years, even though I've changed a lot as a person, despite the fact that I'm in fact wearing literally the exact same uniform in both of those pictures. Because apparently the only thing that's gotten larger since eighth grade is my head. Stuck with it, and now after 5 years in the marching band here, it's become the center of my life. It's every year in the fall, my life revolves around marching band. And once we get into the spring and summer, all I'm doing is watching other videos, trying to figure out stuff to do on my own. It's it's really what defines me. And all of that really came together to inform my entire internship project because I wanted to know what was it like on the other side. What was it like from the perspective of someone who has to organize and run and teach these groups? So with that in mind, I did my internship with Dr. Joshua Bowman at Christopher Newport University. He is the professor of percussion at the university, as well as the assistant director of the CNU Marching Captains. So I used my time with Dr. Bowman, mostly shadowing him in his duties as professor. The clicker isn't working.
Laser important.
Yes. Now it's working. Okay. uh, so, of course, in my time with Dr. Bowman, I shadowed him and observed him with the marching captains at several rehearsals and even on a game day. I also was able to observe some practices or rehearsals, excuse me, of the CNU percussion ensemble, which Dr. Bowman also leads. I was also able to see some private lessons that he did with students. And while I wasn't able to get pictures of that, it was a very interesting experience. It was really, really interesting to me to be able to see, as I said, the other side of the equation. Um, it was very interesting to see how Dr. Bowman went about correcting the students and teaching them and leading them in their rehearsals and in their performances. I was the day that this photograph was taken at the football game was actually their high school band night when other high school band members are able to come and perform with the university band, which as something that I've done myself, it was really, really interesting to be able to see teams. It really opened my eyes just to how much work is involved. I thought there was a lot of work as a participant. I was wrong. The amount of work that the teachers and directors have to do just to get the group on the field, even literally to get them to the stadium, is immense. So I'm really, really thankful that this internship gave me the opportunity to see that and to sort of watch how it happens. Uh, for my research topic, my paper was entitled Marching to Graduation, the Marching Arts and Their Benefits to the Educational System and Long-Term Student Outcomes. I know that sounds exciting, and it was, actually, despite my love for overlong titles. I got to do something really, really interesting to me with my paper. Having lived in Fluvanna all my life, I've had a lot of personal experience with a band program that gets very little funding from the school. For the majority of my being here, the marching band actually got no funding whatsoever. So that's what I wanted to explore. My paper was sort of broken into two parts. First was an exploration of funding for the marching arts. I did an examination of some programs to get an example of how much it costs, and then I did an examination of how much groups are actually getting. The second part of my paper, I talked about what is in the title, benefits to their participants and to the educational systems. And it was really, really interesting. Of course, I knew that the marching arts were a good thing, but I never realized that they had quite such an impact on everyone. When you're a participant, there's part of you that kind of thinks, oh, this is just something that I love. This is what I'm getting out of it. But in fact, the majority of participants actually get these incredible, incredible benefits, and it helps the educational system in general. So that was what I explored in the second half of my paper. For my community service and legacy project, I will be collaborating with Grace Newman as well as several other volunteers from the high school symphonic and jazz bands to put together the Fluvanna Music Day. We will be working with a group of middle schoolers of all ability levels, anyone who wants to sign up, and we will spend the day working with them and giving them clinics and teaching them a piece, which at this point in time is Hedwig's theme from Harry Potter. That's fun. We will be spending the day working with the students, and they will be doing a performance at the Fluvanna County Fine Arts Festival here at the high school. The hope is that this will become a recurring event, and something that will be able to be continued so that future middle school students will have the same opportunity to work with people of all ability levels. And the reason we wanted to do it with students of all ability levels rather than just the advanced group at the middle school is because as musicians, one of the most eye-opening things that you can do is work with people all across the spectrum of skill levels, because that gives you an idea of where you come from, but also where you can go. And it very much gives you something to aspire to see someone who's just incredible and say, I could be that. So that's why we wanted to do it with all ability levels. As for advice for future upcoming governor school students, first of all, I have to say the very obvious, exactly the advice you expect to be given at these presentations. Don't procrastinate. It makes everything much, much harder. Work piles up. It's no fun at all. The second piece of advice would be to don't stop asking. When I was trying to reach out and find a mentor for this project, I sent out probably half a dozen or more emails to directors all across Virginia and got exactly one response. Not one response to work with me, one response, period. And that can be discouraging, but it's really, really important that you just keep going. When you find this thing you want to do, you have to keep going and keep trying until you find someone who does say, yes, I would love to work with you. And also don't be afraid to to sort of let your plans change. I had very, very big plans at the beginning of the year. I'm excited for what we're going to do now, but Miss Ash can attest, over the course of the year, my plans had to keep being whittled down and whittled down and whittled down until they had to change entirely. And again, that is discouraging, but it's really, really important that you not let that get to you. It's okay if things don't work out how you think they're going to initially. You just have to roll with the punches and keep on with the project. Third piece of advice, this might be just me, but I would recommend to choose a doing project. When I was working with Dr. Bowman, as much as I loved being able to do it, I wasn't able to actually do much. Maybe it's just because I was in the collegiate setting, but the vast majority of my project was following Dr. Bowman around and observing and being a fly on the wall. And I did appreciate that. It was eye-opening, but I would have liked to be in a setting where I could actually work with other musicians and work with students and do a little bit more than just helping move equipment around every now and then. As for my future, I am going to be this fall attending Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. I will be studying music education, and I hope to become a music teacher at the high school because I want to be able to give future generations of students and aspiring musicians the same opportunity that I had for this art. It, like I said, starting as a musician changed my life. It set the course for my entire life. And not only that, it's something that I love doing every second of it. So my biggest goal in life was always to be able to help people learn. And now I know that I want to be able to help people learn music. Thank you.
Do you play any other instrument?
At this point, I don't play any other instruments outside of percussion. However, as a percussionist, you bounce from one thing to the other, from a mallet instrument like marimba or xylophone, snare drum, bass drum, timpani. So you do get the whole spectrum of a bunch of different instruments, but I don't play anything right now outside of the overall umbrella spectrum of percussion.
I liked your reflective perspective on the doing aspect and how that impacted your project. How will that, what you took away from that in your time with the team professor impact what you're doing for your music day? Is it the middle school students you said?
Yes.
So how will that impact what you do?
How will my desire for a doing project?
Like you talked about how you didn't get to really do, you followed, you watched. Is that going to have an impact? Do you think it will impact like your experience with the music day, the Louisiana Music Day?
Yes. For me and Grace and the other volunteers from the high school, we're going to be every minute working with the kids, whether it's conducting them or showing them how to play something. We are going to be doing something every minute of the day, and we also want the middle schoolers to be able to be doing something every minute of the day. It's going to be, constant playing for them or doing some other activity.
How do you think the Savannah County funding hindered for the program? You were saying that one time there wasn't any funding. Yes, there's some funding now.
There is
Some
some
funding.
now.
But what do you see as a hindrance? Because what do we need to do more with the funding? Make the program goals.
Well, more funding, especially with marching arts, allows just for more exploration, generally speaking, more advanced shows that push the students more and will push them to really increase their ability levels cost more. Props that allow students the opportunity to put on a bigger, better show cost more. So it just, everything in general allows us, funding will allow us to do more of. Not to mention, many of the instruments that we have are in pretty lousy condition, frankly. I had last year the harness that I used to hold my drums on the field, because it had been in use since David Yule was the director in Fluvanna, at least 15 years ago. They were older than I am. So more funding also just allows us to get new equipment so that the students will have a better overall experience because their equipment isn't great.
Did you find anything, additional information or skills at the university level with percussion players?
Did I find?
Yeah. Were there any advanced skills or any difference between the percussion players on the university level and on the high school?
Yes. There's just the general increase in ability level from having been behind the instruments for longer. But there are some more advanced techniques that I don't get to see here very often. A lot of people, when they play mallet instruments, generally here we only play pieces that have 2 mallets, but at the university level, nearly every piece, at least for marimba and vibraphone, will have 4 mallet parts, 2 mallets in each hand. That was something that I got to see a lot more of, and I also saw that music that gets played at a university level also has much more experimentation, much more stuff that's just kind of out there, frankly, like playing timpani with wooden blocks, or which I realize may not mean a whole lot to you, but that's weird. So they get to do a lot more stuff that's kind of out there, a lot more doing different things with different stuff like that.
One more, sorry. So you talked about the legacy of the project with the Fluvanna Musical Day. Do you have specific steps that you've taken to try to ensure that it does continue after you graduate?
We've been talking to people. Hopefully, the success of it, which we hope it will be a tremendous success, will kind of inspire the school to allow it to continue to happen. But I at least have been talking to people who I know are just as devoted to music as I am, and very dependable to sort of work on setting the framework for it to be.
And what day is it?
That is the day of the Fine Arts Festival, which is May 6th. Would have liked to do it a bit earlier than that, but there's a lot of communication issues having to communicate between us and the director of the middle school and our director to get it in the Fine Arts Festival, or to set a date, use equipment.
So you said there was a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes at your internship, and it was a lot more than you would think. What kind of stuff was that?
Of course, there was just the logistical stuff that you don't think of as a participant. Maybe you as a drum major would have, but just corralling everyone to get them in line was a tremendous effort. Getting everyone doing the right thing all the time was a tremendous effort. It was just more work overall than I had thought it would be for the staff members.
You spoke about long-term outcomes, positive impact. Those who parents didn't miss some of those. What would be some of the long-term positive outcomes of participating in the band program?
Well, of course, there's, especially with the marching arts, you get there's much more of a feeling that the other people are relying on you. So starting in 8th grade and going through 5 years of a program, you get very, very used to the idea that there are other people who are counting on you to do what you have to do, and you are counting on other people to do what they have to do. So there's a drastic improvement in team working abilities, that sort of thing. Also, one of the other biggest long-term impacts is confidence. Before I started, I was pretty quiet. I really, really kept to myself. I was very, very nervous performing anything. But since I've been in the program, being out on the field and doing so much more, especially once I left the front ensemble in 8th grade and moved on to marching on the field, having solos and being in the spotlight, it really, really instills a lot of confidence in the students, which of course is something that helps throughout.